please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we beseech your divine guidance in this meeting. Keep us ever mindful of our obligation. Grant us, dear Lord, wisdom, tolerance, and courage that we may well serve our county and fulfill our trust. Amen.
Amen. All right. Move to approve the minutes of February 3rd.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yep.
Sweattick?
Yes. Do we have any public comment today on any resolutions that are going to be passed today?
Yes.
No, resolutions that are going to be passed today. Yeah. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to resolutions. County Engineer, we have Dan Becker here today.
Morning.
Good morning.
I've got one resolution for your consideration. That's finding the public welfare and convenience requires the replacement of bridge number 29 on Remsen Road in Granger Township. And then our weekly permits.
All right. Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Next up, we have Holly Murin, Human Resources Director.
Good morning.
Good morning. On our personnel changes resolution today, we have 2 new hires, 1 in maintenance and 1 in building, 8 rate increases, 3 in sanitary, 3 in job and family services, 1 at senior and adult services, and 1 in transit, 1 transfer between agencies, 1 transfer within agency in sanitary, a leave of absence in sanitary, and a termination in job and family services.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, we have Brett Thomas, our Finance Director.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have 4 resolutions for you. This will be a quick one this week. Our first one is print shop revenue in the amount of $5,652.86. Our next resolution is transfers to the Gasoline Rotary Fund in the amount of $17,266.95. Our third resolution is expenses for county officials. This is all for Economic Development's annual meeting. And finally, our fourth resolution is our weekly bills in the amount of $1,347,721.75.
Move to approve the 4 resolutions.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next up, we have Matt Springer, our County Administrator.
Good morning, Commissioners.
morning.
One resolution that's accepting the Home Energy Assistance Program funding for 2026 to help qualifying seniors through McSass.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Okay, so for department reports, first up, we have Philip Titterington from MHRB.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Morning.
Well, this is the best turnout I've had. I appreciate it. Thank you. Just to kind of give you the quarterly update for what I'd like to focus on is the Human Services Levy, the funding that we so graciously get from the voters that allows us to fill kind of the gaps in mental health and recovery. As you're aware, mental health and recovery were set up statute to create the continuum of services, but not only to create it, but to evaluate it and to fund any gaps or services to the extent resources are available. And this funding helps us do that. So what I want to do today is kind of touch on a couple of the areas that directly are impacted by the levy dollars. And those are the mental health and crisis supports as well as the recovery supports. So keep in mind this report is for the period of October through December of 2025. Our 3 main agencies that we work with, Alternative Paths, Catholic Charities, as well as Ohio Guidestone, during this reporting period, they served a total of 6,838 clients. Of those clients, 91% were adults, 9% were youth. And of those, approximately 29% or 1,833 of the adults and 200 of the youth received the intensive psychiatric services. And then 349 or 56% of the youth were diagnosed with a serious emotional disturbance. So one of the areas, mental health and crisis support, give you some services that are within that area. As you're aware, the Mental Health and Recovery Board owns 3 apartment buildings that provides 31 units for youth or for adults who need supportive housing. So not only with the upkeep of the units themselves that we own, we also have costs associated with rental assistance as well as property management and case management services. And all of those units are occupied at this point. We also lease an additional 13 units of supportive housing through the Medina Metro Housing Authority, and those as well are at capacity. When residents need a higher level of care than the supportive housing, they may require a group home. The Mental Health and Recovery Board does provide funding for 10 adults that are in group home settings each month at a cost of about $3,300 per individual per month. So you can see that cost is something there, but is necessary in terms of that next level of care. And then if adult group home isn't something and they need some residential or state psychiatric hospitalization, the Mental Health and Recovery Board works with the state hospital system as well as private psychiatric hospitals. And what we're seeing is the increase in forensic individuals, those with legal cases or legal issues that are in the jail, are requiring more competency or restoration. So they're going to the state hospital. State hospital then is filling up with forensic beds as opposed to civil beds, which makes it difficult. And then at that point, then we are looking for private psychiatric hospitalization there. So we're keeping our eye on that because as the need grows, the funding isn't growing as well. We continue to work with the Next Step Up shelter, the homeless shelter. We provide mental health case management as well as, when available, transitional housing. So when they transition from the emergency shelter, we can provide them with more of a supportive housing model there. The levy funding also helps with the 24/7 crisis and behavioral helpline. So during this reporting period, there were 862 crisis engagements through that hotline. Of those, 74 individuals verbalized suicidal thoughts. And then there were actually 115 referrals were made directly by law enforcement for crisis intervention. In addition, on occasion, we have a local outreach to suicide survivors, also known as a loss team. During this time, there were 2 instances where the loss team was dispatched. And as a reminder, family and friends of those who have completed suicide are at a higher risk of attempting to complete suicide themselves, so it's important that we go out and provide any type of assistance that might be necessary for the family members and friends and such. And then also under this area, the Mental Health and Recovery Board has a youth resiliency and counseling center, which provides the trauma-informed care. It's a state-of-the-art facility that provides individual group therapy rooms, could be a sand room, could be a motion room, sensory room, because we understand that therapy doesn't fit, one type of therapy doesn't fit everyone, so we wanted to make it a state-of-the-art there, and then with that comes the cost of maintaining the building, capital project, things like that. Second area I want to quickly focus on that the levy funding is very instrumental to are recovery supports. So you know that Hope Recovery Community is one of our biggest or the biggest recovery community here in Medina County, which does excellent work, and we help to provide funding for operational as well as other type of programming. They operate a 24/7 Hope Peer Link where individuals can call at any time, any hour when they need some type of assistance, when they're just ready to get some type of help. And during this reporting period, there were 248 calls. And Hope Recovery Community linked 118 individuals to detox, residential treatment, or recovery housing. And when insurance isn't covered, we, as a Mental Health and Recovery Board, provide that funding for those services. During this reporting period, they have 10 certified peer recovery supporters that work at Hope Recovery Community, and we also have 4 that operate out of Ohio Guidestone. And during this reporting period, Hope Recovery Community continues to provide peer support to inmates in jail, which, as you know, helps with that transition back into the community, already linked with program support, which hopefully reduces recidivism, gets them the help that they need in their journey forward in recovery. Also, we have medication-assisted treatment that is operational in alternative paths, Ohio Guidestone, as well as in the jail. So we're fortunate that individuals who go to jail or in jail test positive, there's that option for them to start medication-assisted treatment, and then they can carry that forward as they are released. And then also during this, one of the big supports is recovery housing. So in Medina County, there are 55 certified beds, and that is 40 male beds, 15 female beds, and there's always a waiting list. We're working with Hope Recovery Community on other capital projects in which they can expand and add additional recovery housing. So that's in the works, more to come. And then also, we have at this point, and Commissioner Hambley, as you're aware, One Ohio State Foundation funding that we're very active on. Hopeful that we're going to see a lot of different applications for funding that would help for services and such. So finally, as most of us are, we nervously await our next fiscal year funding. As you're aware that the mental health and recovery boards have a formula at which they use a lot of social determinants to determine what that allocation may be and adjust accordingly, which makes it very difficult because we do receive funding. That funding, as we are producing excellent results, lower suicide rates, lower overdose fatalities. But if that's tied into funding, it becomes a puzzle, if you will, in a difficult situation. But once again, on behalf of the Mental Health and Recovery Board, we thank the voters for the Medina County Human Services Levy and all the good. And what that does is that's the most flexible funding to hit local priorities. We're very thankful for federal and state funding, but they come with maybe a little bit more stringent priorities, whereas the levy allows us to do what works locally. Any questions?
Any question, John?
No?
Thank you so much,
Great
Noah.
job.
Thank you for the time.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, we have John Hunter from the County Auditor's Office. John wasn't on the agenda, but he did ask to speak.
Yes, thank you, Colleen. This is more just kind of a public service. I don't know if many of you might have saw a news article yesterday about spoofing treasurer and auditor websites for tax payments. It hasn't happened in Medina yet, but it is something that occurs very fast. So I just wanted to let people know the official website for the auditor's office is auditor.medinacounty.gov. For the treasurer, it's medinacountytax.com. You cannot pay your taxes through the auditor's office. So if you go to a site and it's spoofing the auditor's office, and we're monitoring as best we can these things that pop up, and they pop up really quickly. It is not the official site. The only way you can pay your tax bill online is medinacountytax.com, and I just wanted everyone to be aware. Unfortunately, it's a growing concern in across the nation, but particularly Northeast Ohio has been hit very heavily with spoofing of websites. So
We appreciate the heads up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay, next up, we have public comment. And would you like to go first? Sure. State your name and address, please, and 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Mary Emhoff, 5065 Fox Haven Drive, Medina. Okay, so it's our civic duty here today to speak to our elected officials to let them know how we feel on issues. And likewise, it's your civic duty to speak to the state legislators, and because right now they're trying to help you wash your hands of ICE and the issue of diverting local law enforcement funds to assist ICE. That's a big issue for us here today. So here's our resolution. A resolution declaring the Medina County shall not support or participate in immigration and customs enforcement and/or Customs and Border Patrol enforcement activities, nor house ICE detainees in the Medina County Jail. Whereas Medina County residents rely on local law enforcement to adhere to the U.S. constitutional rights of the people, protect safety, and maintain public trust and decency for all individuals, regardless of immigration status, and whereas cooperation agreements between county governments, ICE, CBP, and other federal agency agreements such as the U.S. Marshals Service, functioning as a third-party workaround for housing immigration detainees, including agreements or contracts to house federal detainees, have been shown to erode trust between the law enforcement and residents, including immigrant communities, and whereas fear of ICE CBP activity results in residents being less willing to report crimes, to seek medical care, to participate in schools, or access social services, making the entire community less safe, and whereas empirical research nationwide shows that jurisdictions limiting ICE CBP cooperation do not experience higher crime rates and often see increased crime reporting and stronger community police collaboration. And whereas Medina County taxpayers should not bear the financial, legal, or human decency burdens associated with housing ICE CBP detainees, including increased staffing, liability risks, medical costs, transportation expenses, and potential overcrowding in the Medina County Jail. And whereas Medina County's jail facilities are not designed to meet federal immigration detention standards, exposing the county to potential litigation or federal compliance penalties if used for ICE CBP detentions. And whereas ICE CBP operations in a community, including civil raids, workplace arrests, and home detentions, have been shown to cause harm to families, children, employers, schools, and local economies. And whereas immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility, and local resources should not be devoted to Medina County priorities such as public safety, health, and community well-being. And whereas Medina County is committed to ensuring all residents can live free from racial profiling, discrimination, harassment, or worse, based on immigration status. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Medina County Commissioners, Section 1, Prohibition on ICE Detention Contracts. Medina County shall not enter into or renew any contract, agreement, or understanding with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Customs and Border Control, or other third-party federal agencies, such as the U.S. Marshals Service, for the purpose of detaining individuals on civil immigration grounds in the Medina County Jail. Section 2, Prohibition on Participation in ICE Civil Enforcement. No Medina County agency shall participate in or assist with ICE CBP civil immigration enforcement actions or assist joint participation, such as task forces or embedded liaisons, including raids, home arrests, workplace enforcement, or surveillance, unless accompanied by a judicial warrant signed by a federal judge and without strict memorandums of understanding containing the minimum operational standards, identification, de-escalation protocols, medical response rules, and documentation protocols. Section 3, Limitation on ICE CBP detainer requests. The Medina County Jail and Sheriff's Office shall not hold individuals beyond their release date based on ICE CBP detainer requests or administrative warrants unless a judicial warrant is provided. Section 4, Restriction on use of county resources by ICE CBP or other federal immigration enforcement personnel. Restrict the use of Medina County property for staging, detention, or operations absent clear rules. County funds, facilities, equipment, and personnel shall not be used to enforce federal civil immigration law except as required by federal or Ohio law or pursuant to a judicial warrant. Section 5, Protection of Community Trust. Medina County affirms that all residents, regardless of immigration status, should feel safe engaging in non-criminal activities such as reporting crimes, seeking emergency services, sending children to school, and accessing public services without fear of law enforcement interference and harassment. As such, rapid response documentation protocols must be created in coordination with county attorneys and legal observers for federal actions occurring in public spaces. At a minimum, Medina County officials must urge federal law enforcement personnel to provide names and badges while using body cams during any community engagements within Medina County. Section 6, Transparency Requirement. The public deserves transparency regarding the Commissioner's decision about this resolution. Also, any requests from ICBP or third-party federal agencies such as the U.S. Marshals Service for cooperation, facility use, or information must be reported publicly at the Medina County Commissioners meeting. And following ICE or CBP or other federal agency requests for commissioner decisions for ICBP or other federal agency requests and included in the official minutes. Preferred transparent action for Medina County citizens would be commissioners to publish the results of any discussion or action regarding ICE in the local papers immediately following such discussion. And we had someone in the audience say they would like to see it on the televised on the TV news also.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next? Your name and address, please. Thank you.
Hi there. Good morning, everybody. We in Medina County are in...
Your name, please. Name and address, please.
Sorry. My name is Nola Lothar, 3425 Forest Lake Drive, Medina, 44256. We are in vogue with other communities. You might have noticed if you're watching the news this morning, Cleveland's doing it, Summit County did it last night, and we are hoping that Medina County follows through in getting control over what happens here to our neighbors, undocumented immigrants. So, you, the commissioners, as community leaders, may not be able or willing to keep ICE out of our community. However, as a gesture of civic morality, you can publicly voice empathy for our undocumented neighbors who are under siege. You, the county leaders, may not support the anti-ICE resolutions that we keep bringing to you. This is our third time. But you can publicly channel compassion toward the fear experienced by our undocumented neighbors whose existence is threatened. Leadership typically doesn't welcome citizen resistance against the government. But do you think it's wrong to acknowledge neighbors who have to hide because they are brown, black, or speak with an accent? Does it concern you that ICE seems to be a national paramilitary force with a sinister ambition? Leaders can hope that the discussion witnessed here never reaches the wider media. Keep Medina calm. At the same time, you might wonder how an undocumented person is coping with constant uncalm, anxiety, and threat. What is your contribution to exacerbating or mitigating that threat? What damaging consequence might you prevent if you examine this issue more carefully. What about speaking out in advance that many ICE actions are wrong? Should these behaviors be prevented in Medina? The famous historian on authoritarianism, Timothy Snyder, warns us not to obey in advance. What is community leaders? How are you accountable for this during this time? Do you just wait for the state or federal immigration legislation to render the decision, or do you make your own decisions? Why do some Medina citizens repeatedly attempt to prevent ICE from replicating a reign of terror in our community? You can turn away from ICE harassing and murdering citizens in Minneapolis. You can also pray that it doesn't happen here. You can wonder why the federal government cruelly lies about observable events. And you might wonder why those local left-leaning people keep protesting, writing resolutions for leaders, holding education events for citizens to promote more informed choices. Or you might entertain the idea that an authoritarian takeover is happening in this country, including in Medina, Ohio. What, you might say? What's happening? Or are these citizens that are warning you against ICE just peddling, quote, socialism, communism, and woke ideas, unquote? Actually, this situation is well beyond political party sparring between Republicans and Democrats. It's about saving democracy versus allowing an authoritarian takeover. Is there a role for local leadership to discuss these issues with citizens? We're asking you to consider how the harsh immigration situation affects our community and what can be done to prevent more suffering. You take an oath to serve in this office. In the meantime, while we live through the unfolding of this nationwide horrific scenario, you can consider maybe it's as simple as showing empathy and acknowledging the parable of the Good Samaritan. Quote, Jesus tells us to love our neighbors as ourselves and help those in need.
Thank you, Nolan.
Unquote.
Name and address, please.
Elaine Stone, Medina, 1151 North Jefferson Street, Unit 9. Thank you. I'm Elaine Stone, and I speak in favor of this resolution. I like what Nola said, and I'm going to back it up with some extra stuff. Thank you for your time. Fear, F-E-A-R, is the emotion of the century, of the year, of the day. F-E-A-R. It's the overwhelming emotion of our day. A 2025 university study of top fears in America reports, and by the way, I'm not nervous, I'm just got a lot to say, reports that they mostly revolve around safety, health, stability. And you think about that now, and we have very little of any of those things. For some time now, we have been urged by many state and federal leaders to fear those who have brown skin and speak with an accent. We in Medina County know that these brown-skinned people are our neighbors and our friends, and they are our hardworking community supporters, and we have absolutely nothing to fear from them. We are trying to be convinced of that, but we're not afraid of them. We have 6,000 Medina County residents who are of Hispanic heritage. 6,000. Statistically, 80% of them are U.S. citizens. 68% of them are citizens by birth. 13 by naturalization. Only 20% of them are undocumented. Yet ICE is allowed to pick up anyone with brown skin when they walk down the street, drive their car, work at their job, or even now, sit in their living room. Of all those they detain, only 26% will have any criminal record at all. 26 maybe had a parking ticket, sped. Only 5% of all the ones they pick up will have committed a violent crime. 73% of them will have no criminal record at all. They just pick them up off the street. The federal government is allowing ICE to consider them guilty because they have brown skin until they are proven innocent. Scripture consistently commands us to welcome the stranger, the alien, the foreigner. This is no small command. It's mentioned 30 times in the Torah, 56 times in the New Testament. It's a tenet of the Christian faith. Believers are commanded to show hospitality, protection, and love to those who come to their community as foreigners. You might realize that all of us at one time sitting in this room have come from someone who was an immigrant, who was a foreigner. None of us have brown skin, but we are foreigners. Jesus said, "I was a stranger and you welcomed me," and he equates that treatment that we give the stranger to the treatment that we give Jesus himself. In short, this resolution, to me, commands us to do three things. One, don't allow any new contracts with ICE. If you make a contract with ICE, be transparent and report it at a meeting. Number two, that's not hard, right? Number two, don't participate or assist with ICE raids. That means as a county, don't do home arrests with them. Don't do workplace enforcement or surveillance unless you have a judicial warrant with them. And that we already do now. Don't allow county property such as parking lots to be used for staging areas, detention centers, or ICE operations. This includes disallowing the use of county funds, county equipment, county property, and county personnel. We are the people that pay the taxes for that. We do not want our taxes to support ICE in those ways. This seems easy. That's the whole thing here. 3 little things. I want you to think about Medina, our little quaint, picturesque town with its Victorian architecture. It's all-American hometown. We will love people to come here and think how wonderful we are. We're almost like a tourist town. What's that going to look like when ICE parks their large vehicles out in our parking lot, ready to gather in the morning, all suited up in their armor, their masks, their pepper spray, their guns, ready to take to the streets of Medina? I know it's hard to visualize. It can't happen here. It is certainly not a good look. Think about running into them when you go to Home Depot or Walmart. I've had a person that said they did that the other day. When you eat at Tre Patrio, or do you eat any there anymore? Or do you not? Because those are brown people. Or when you go to one of our beautiful restaurants on Town Square, we have immigrants, brown people, working in the back rooms in the kitchen of those when they come down there and pick them up. When you see them parked on your block, your city street, and they are mowing the lawn and they're trimming the hedge and somebody comes and snatches them up. Or somebody's building a house in your neighborhood and they come and grab the guy off the ladder because he's got brown skin. ICE is doing that. You say it won't happen. It will soon happen in Springfield, Lima, and Cleveland. It's already happened in Columbus. It will happen here to our 6,000 brown-skinned Hispanic residents. Christianity 101 teaches us to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, to love our neighbors as ourselves. So I ask you to consider the resolution simple ways that you can lead our county. And I mean lead. It's not following. To allay our fears, to demonstrate your love and our love for our neighbors. In order to lead, you will need to set aside your fear, F-E-A-R. your fear of changing your mind, your fear of losing control, your fear of appearing weak, your fear of the bullies in your life, your fear of losing the next election. I actually don't think you will lose the next election if you vote for this, or some portion of it, because I've looked at this. Only half of the people who voted for Trump are still loyal to Trump. This is only 27% of all voters. You can believe that or not, but I see it happening. Only
you.
27%.
Thank you.
Please consider my resolution, our resolution, and I have a little gift. It's just a little symbol of immigration. Here's my, there you go.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thomas Quinn, 2507 Wilbur Road, Medina. Tried to state a time here.
Thank you.
I've been a Medina County resident since 1998. I have no affiliation with any group or organization. I'm a private citizen. I'm 63 years old. A retired engineer, software projects I did. Westfield Insurance, my job's taken me to Europe, Asia. I have a story. It has a point, so stay with me. My wife's from Ashland, but I was born in Chicago in 1962. When I was a kid in the neighborhood, we used to go Chinese, Japanese, what are these? And everybody wanted to know, what are you? Are you Italian, or are you German or Irish? Quinn. And I had one kid say to me, "Oh, you're Irish. Your name is Quinn." And I asked my parents. They said, "No, you're not Irish." I said, "What am I?" They said, "You're half German, quarter Polish, and a quarter out of Swedish, and go outside and play." Right? When I was 10, growing up there, in the suburbs of Chicago, town very much like Medina, Mark Iger's grandmother, in a thick accent, when we didn't want to eat our dinner, she said, "When you hungry, you eat anything." Fareed Hawk, his Chilean mother introduced him as Freddie to me. They lived behind us. His father was Pakistani. He was a PhD microbiologist. Took me to museums and everything. Lots of great aromas coming from that house. Spent a lot of time there. When I was age 16, my 16th birthday, I started working at Spraying Systems, a factory in the Chicago area. They're still there, the largest manufacturer of agricultural spray nozzles. And as summer help, the young guys were put in the warehouse, and we had to take these brass parts, and we're consolidating the warehouse, put them in pans, and stack them in there. And as you can imagine, these pans, when they were full of brass parts, were 200 pounds. And one guy get on one side, the other guy get on the other side. We'd lift them up and put them on the shelves. Well, there was this funny-looking Asian guy that didn't speak any English at all, and he was taking those pans by himself, putting them up there, and he did it all day long. I got to know him a little bit. He was from Cambodia, and I realized later on that he, must have been a Cambodian refugee from the Khmer Rouge. There were also a lot of Hispanics that worked there, and when immigration and naturalization would come in, you'd look around and everybody was like gone and running for the exits. And the company had to hire undocumented workers at that time, because if they didn't, other companies would, and they wouldn't be able to compete, and they would go out of business. So that was tolerated then, and it was a good company. They're still there. When I was age 18, though, we had a family gathering and started talking about our heritage, and started talking about that one last quarter of me, and said, "Well, it's 1/8 Swedish, and you're 1/8 Chinese." Chinese? You look at me, I don't look Asian at all. But my great-grandfather came here in the late 1800s and was a Chinese tailor and had a Chinese laundry. And so my grandmother was half Swedish and half Chinese. She got married to a man named Walter Neff, a German descendant. And, at that time, he was married, but when my dad was 6 months old, he died. So my grandmother found herself as a half Asian widow in the 1920s with an infant son. She had a lot of abusive stepfathers for my dad, and the last one was named Quinn. So that was a good name when you were on the punk on the streets of Chicago. They have an Irish name with the cops there. And when I found all this out, it was like, wow, and my friends and stuff joked about it, but there were no consequences for me. I don't look Asian. In 1882 was the first of the Chinese Exclusion Acts that lasted up and through the 60s. You can read about that on Wikipedia. But my grandmother hid it. She dyed her hair, she wore makeup, and she told my dad to hide it. And he told my older siblings to hide it, and nobody ever told me anything about this, okay? It's a nice story. Here's my point, okay? What we know about each other is always much less than what we don't know. We all have a story. Some are nice, some are not nice, and we make each other hide things. There are criminals in every population that you can draw a box around. But people do things, they do the things that they need to survive in this world. To me, evil is creating an other to fear. Redlining, McCarthyism, all these things that we know from our past and our history that were not good. I say, not here in hometown America, Medina. So in deciding on this resolution, I would just ask you, please, as a private citizen, to allow room for what you may not know or what you may not fully understand. This resolution is one tiny step forward towards setting a better social attitude. Remember that the line of good and evil runs through the heart of every person. If it was easy to determine good from evil, we would have no need for a justice system. Documents or not, back in the early 20s, if you were Asian, you had to carry a card or whatever. Most people just want to go to work and have a happy life. Our whole government is based on compromise, and it's failing. We need to streamline the legal processes. Jesus said, love your enemies, even the heathen love their friends. Hatred never ends by hatred, but by love alone is healed. And lastly, and you don't hear this very much anymore, La Choy makes Chinese food. Swing American. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Thomas.
Good morning.
Name and address, please.
My name is Kristen Lothar. I live at, 34254 Slake Drive. So, what is happening in America is not normal. ICE is not normal. And what I mean by that is that ICE does not follow the Constitution or our American values. But if we don't stand up and speak out and say no, the brutality and unconstitutional nature of ICE can become normal. The city councils of Cleveland and Akron recognize that the people and leaders actively define what is normal in their communities, that they are a bulwark for democracy and decency, and guards against tyranny. They passed emergency resolutions opposing 4 bills in the Ohio State House that require local governments and institutions to cooperate with ICE or lose funding and resources. I say congratulations to them. Congratulations to us, for this is hope for the promise of America. In the past year, what it means to be an American, what we expect from her promise, what we expect of our leaders, our institutions, of each other, has completely changed. We must recognize and stop this change. Each one of us is charged with a personal responsibility to preserve this great nation for ourselves and each other and those that come after us. Commissioners, I bet when you decided to run for office, you never thought you'd be part of such history. And yet here we are in this historical moment, begging you to follow the Constitution that sustains our great and fragile democracy. The question is asked of all of us, but for you, elected leaders of our community, Colleen, Steve, Aaron, for you, this question is most consequential, and that is, on which side of history do you wish to stand? Before answering it, remember that of all the roles we take on throughout our lives, mom, dad, husband, wives, teachers, nurses, commissioners, of all these roles, the most important one, at the end of the day, indeed at the end of our lives, is to be a decent person.
Thank you, Kristen.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Giuliano. I live at 171 Granger Road, Unit 168, Medina, Ohio, 44256. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. We are here to strongly demand you sign our resolution to prohibit, limit, and restrict ICE from gaining a stronghold in our Medina community, and to protect our Medina residents from fear of immigration consequences. Many will proffer reasons that will appeal to the better angels of our nature, as President Abraham Lincoln called compassion, empathy, and unity over anger, violence, and division. I, however, would like to paint another picture for you. Let's review some of the recent headlines regarding Medina from Cleveland Magazine. Legacy Hotel is a monument to Medina. The hotel is described as a, quote-unquote, pompous lodging experience for incoming travelers with an event center, coffee shop, upscale restaurant, and rooftop bar. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Or, quote-unquote, Medina keeps a small town feel despite city amenities. Best places to live. Medina's town square is like stepping foot into a time machine in all the best ways. Delightful. Consider the economic consequences of ICE in our neighborhoods. The armed agents in camouflage, brandishing weapons, tear gassing residents. You know people will rally against this. You know that protesters will congregate on the square with the freedom to do so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Intense ICE enforcement in Portland, Oregon, with over 1,000 arrests in 2025, reduced business for local establishments that were either closed or reduced to takeout. Other side of the coin, new wave of tourism created by protesters and observers whistling and filming all the horror of the ICE-related activities. Maybe the new tourists will stay at the Legacy Hotel. Can you just picture it? As another president stated, be there. We'll be wild. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Commissioners, friends, My name is Michael Eisner, 32605 Stony Brook Lane, Solon, Ohio. Yes, I know I do not live in Medina County, and I thank you for your service and the courage that you have shown just to run for office and represent this community. And I know a little bit about the courage of running for office because I'm doing that now. I hope to be your next congressperson. So let's talk courage a little bit. 1908. My great-grandfather had the courage to move to this country. And we heard a little bit about fear today. Courage is not ignoring fear, but feeling it and walking into it. My great-grandfather had the courage to move here so that my family can have a better life and we can live the American dream. 1991. My in-laws had the courage to move here from China. Yes, my wife is a naturalized citizen. She came here when she was 11. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in our communities now. The naturalized citizens, not undocumented people and workers, naturalized citizens are carrying on their phones pictures of their passports, their naturalization papers, and their driver's license if they don't have it with them, because they're afraid they're going to get picked up by ICE. U.S. citizens have been picked up and detained for upwards of a week. This is not a normal time. This is not the America that we all bargained to live in. Everybody in this room, unless somebody happens to be Native American descent, at one point came from an immigrant family. Let's talk about another number, 38. A month and a half ago, 38 people going into their naturalization ceremony to become official citizens after doing all the work and pledging allegiance to our country like we did to our flag, were pulled out of line and not allowed to complete the process because of what they look like and where they came from. It is not American. Warrantless searches put us all at risk. And it puts your community at risk for having people, and I know a little bit about this, and I also happen to be a lawyer. When the constitutional rights of people are violated, lawyers file lawsuits, and it costs communities money and time and resources and embarrassment. That is not what you, when you walked through that courage line, what you bargained to do when you decided to run and represent the people of this community. We should not be living in fear of being picked up because of what we look like, or because we happen to be following a ICE agent or recording them, and then being told, you're interfering with us by recording us and following your constitutional rights. The U.S. Constitution guarantees due process for all people. The language is not citizen, it's people. Everybody has that right. ICE is ignoring it. They are using fake warrants, calling them administrative. They're not judicial. They don't have any due process element behind them. It's just somebody signing a piece of paper in an administrative office. What they are doing is un-American, and we must stand up for it. The resources it costs you. Under Governor DeWine said any ICE convoy will be escorted by a highway patrol officer. That highway patrol officer is supposed to be out on 71 protecting us, not following the authoritarian regime. Your sheriffs, they're supposed to be helping to run the prisons, enforce the laws, and make sure that the good people who, like the man who spoke before from the Rehabilitation Board, that those resources are being used for what you intended them to be used for. There are huge economic consequences. As I talk with all of our voters, I hear one thing: community. They care about the community, and they care about their neighbors and their employees, including on the farms, where they're losing their labor force because they're afraid to show up, because they're worried that some ICE agent's going to come and pick them up and brutalize them. It is just not okay. And so I encourage you, follow the pledge that we gave at the beginning of this. Make us one nation under God with liberty and justice for all, not just those who look like us. So please have the courage to stand up, consider this resolution, and protect your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Unlike Elaine, I may be a little nervous. My name is Patricia McDonald. I live at 4182 Blue Ridge Drive in Brunswick, 44212. And I wrote a little something and I'd like to share it. During these difficult months, watching human beings around our nation dragged from their workplaces, out of their homes, cars, away from their children, while others' whereabouts still remain unknown, and yes, even some murdered, I have been reminded of my family's immigration history. Immigration is a shared history for American families, a history that makes us proud. Even if you don't know your ancestors' immigration history, you've got one, unless you are 100% indigenous descent. Heck, our communities are built around our ancestors. We learn their dances, bake their breads, and even hold parades and heritage festivals all throughout the year to celebrate them. Yet here in the United States of America in 2026, we're watching this immigration enforcement nightmare unfold. Specifically, this current administration's iteration of ICE, utilizing ambush-style tactics, undermining the rule of law, eroding public trust, and creating a climate of fear. We all know immigrants were not always welcomed with open arms. We also know that it was never just one immigrant population, nor just one time in our history in which immigrants were targeted. Becoming a citizen is neither a quick nor easy process, exacerbated now by this administration changing the rules and deeming over 1.5 million once protected immigrants to what they call illegal. Scapegoating the immigrants of our nation is not the solution. It never has been, no matter how many times our government tries to sell the sordid tale that immigrants or members of any marginalized community of people are the reason for the hardships we face as a society. I have been told that signing a resolution of this sort is not necessary because the sheriff has not and likely will not present a contract with ICE as it pertains to this presented resolution. But what does inaction do for our community? The fears of our neighbors are real. The targeting of immigrants is real. The harassment of citizens of brown and black skin color is real. Inaction begets inaction. So I am compelled to stand here before you today and use my voice and imploring our leaders of our community to document and vocalize their support for all the targeted and marginalized members of our community. Our leaders standing up and saying that they will not support unconstitutional, illegal, and inhumane tactics being utilized against any immigrant is also saying that they will not support those tactics against us. Let me be clear, I am not negating the need for immigration enforcement. However, I am calling for legal and humane enforcement, which follows the Constitution of the United States of America. Supporting a racially motivated ethnic cleansing of specific cultures of people within our nation, either by being passive bystanders or active contributors, is unacceptable by a nation of descendants of ancestral immigrants who could have been served this very same fate. So I leave you with this for your consideration. What are you as a body of locally elected officials and or as individuals willing to do for the love of our community to help families fear less? I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else here for public? Okay. Your name, please? My name is Melissa Tucker at 382 Longview Road. I came here unprepared to speak, so bear with me as I go through some of the talking points that were presented here today. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of active cooperation with ICE and the consistent enforcement of our immigration laws within Medina County. We must be clear about definitions. Illegal immigrants are titled as such because they entered our country in violation of our laws. This is not a slight against any foreigner. Many come here through proper legal channels. However, if a stranger walked into your private home unannounced, your first reaction would not be to offer a meal. You would call the police to protect your household. Matthew 22:21 says, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Render unto God what is God's." The county and our tax dollars are that of Caesar in this manner. Our borders are that of Caesar, not of, excuse me. Yes. Thank you. I question, when should Medina officers be involved in ICE raids? When an illegal immigrant flees ICE officers and then endangers our residents? Or when an illegal immigrant flees and leaves their child unattended? Who is to care for those children? Who is to protect the residents? A person who has broken the law to be here should have the same concern about law enforcement as any citizen with an active warrant. It has been estimated that about 20% of the Hispanic community is undocumented. That group's refusal to take the self-deportation, they are, they are risking being detained by ICE and therefore being deported forcefully. They have made that decision, and they know that they could be picked up by ICE at any moment. You have taken an oath to serve the residents of Medina County, not the citizens of other nations. You serve your people in a county where 60% of the voters supported an administration that has promised mass deportations and return to the rule of law. By cooperating with ICE, you are fulfilling the mandate given to you by the taxpayers who live here legally. Finally, I respect the right to peaceful protests. Much of our headlines have shown peaceful protests turn into riots. Riots welcome law enforcement and will be treated as such. Thank you. That's it today.
Thank you, Melissa. Is there anyone?
Well, that was a riot.
Thank you. I didn't make any rude comments during the speech.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is David Walker. I live at 185 Donna Drive, Wadsworth, Ohio. I grew up in upstate New York with a short distance to Fort Ticonderoga, Saratoga, Bennington, and we were steeped in the history of the Revolution and the reasons for the Revolution. In 1964, I moved to Ohio, and I've lived here ever since. My comments are in favor of the resolution. I would like to suggest that the paramount criteria for evaluating the resolution depends on the answer to the following question. What does the recent activity of ICE truly represent? The avowed purpose of ICE currently is to remove immigrants who have committed serious crimes within U.S. borders or are here illegally. However, the evidence strongly indicates that ICE is intentionally being used to intimidate the entire populace by, among other things, using excessive and unjustified violence against men, women, and children, both citizens and non-citizens alike, including removal, incarceration, and transportation without benefit of legal proceedings, and flagrant disregard of the rule of law and the rights enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. Basically, and paraphrasing, all of which behavior does seemingly have in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the people of the United States. Accordingly, I contend that it behooves the people of Medina County to refrain from providing assistance to ICE using funding from any source in furtherance of the actions and behavior currently being committed by them.
Thank you, David.
Commissioners, people of Medina, good morning. My name is Dan Walker. I'm from 613 South Court Street right here in Medina. I wish I could go in as detail and be as eloquent as everybody else, but my talk is going to be more just my gut feeling. And I'm here not only because I'm passionate about standing up for my neighbors, but I'm also disgusted seeing our laws selectively enforced in our communities across the United States, all while watching the institutions that are supposed to keep us safe fail us miserably. That's why I'm here to talk to you all. We see roving groups of masked paramilitary forces stopping people because of their appearance, demanding proof of citizenship, throwing them to the ground, beating them, pepper spraying them at point blank range, right in their eyes, abducting children, even holding U.S. citizens against their will, and yes, even killing U.S. citizens without so much as a crime scene protection or an investigation. I ask you all, since when have we, the American people, tolerated such actions that are explicitly against our laws and our U.S. Constitution? And who is responsible for these acts? None other than our federal government. And they're coming. We've seen them, L.A., D.C., Minneapolis, Chicago, Lewiston, Maine, Cincinnati, Chicago, Columbus, and now with threats to invade Springfield, Ohio, and other Ohio cities that have Haitian immigrants. They promised to target just the most violent criminal illegal immigrants, like the lady said, illegal immigrants, that they could be deported. But instead they're targeting anyone, brown skin with an accent, all to sow fear in our communities, stealing our neighbors away and leaving us distrusting even our local law enforcement. This is all, as we all know in our hearts, it has nothing to do with legal immigration enforcement. That is important to our national security and keeping our communities safe. There's no argument with that, I don't think. But this is absolutely about scapegoating a certain demographic, demonizing the least among us, and dividing us as Americans, all in the name of consolidating power. So here I am. I'm frustrated in the face of an oppressive federal government. I'm frustrated at a state government that's bent their knee and kissed the ring. And I'm disappointed after having talked to some of our county leaders about this issue. And despite your disapproval of what's happening, you're unwilling to speak out. You can minimize this onslaught, but you must use your positional power that your community has given you. Stand up and speak out on their behalf, if only to show empathy and solidarity with our immigrant community. Putting our heads in the sand will no longer protect us. Thankfully, there are some points of light in our state representatives, Cleveland City Council, now Akron City Council, that are opposing those newly proposed state laws that would coerce local agencies to perform immigration enforcement those duties or risk losing state funding. Hospitals, job services, sheriffs, local police, they're coming. The meeting started with a prayer, but I won't invoke religion other than to say that it has illuminated my political views and perspectives on social justice issues. And like Elaine said, the references to loving your neighbor and the foreigner in our land is taught in all the major religions, and just those things are in the Bible over 140 times. So, but it takes courage to garner that wisdom and put it into practice. Courage calls leaders to speak out in times of uncertainty and in the face of injustice. Otherwise, we're just merely administrators. So even if you won't pass this resolution, there are lessons learned out there from your counterparts who have already lived through this chaos and its aftermath. We can prepare. I invite you all to take a small step toward doing so and do something before the chaos arrives here. And I invite you to work with us on finding a way forward.
Thank you, Dan.
So I've spoken before you, so know who I am. Kathy Jones, 2606 Hidden Spring Lane, Wadsworth, Ohio, Sharon Township. And I'm speaking today as a first generation here. And I would like to say also, one lady here mentioned it was just the Spanish residents, but you have a lot of Haitian residents here and other immigrants here. And I, as a court monitor for the Federal Immigration Court, see this every day, and I see in detention people that have no records of any crimes ever being permitted. They've lived here, worked here, they have homes here, and they shouldn't be in detention, and you have no idea how it looks and what they're going through. And now the laws or the government's trying to make them pay. Some of these people filled out asylum papers 10 years ago, and their hearings haven't been heard yet. And now they're trying to charge them $100 a year just to keep asylum papers current, I guess you'd say. And I will say this, because this pertains to here in our courts too. ICE agents have been up there outside the federal immigration courts, and as soon as the people that have applied for asylum and have upcoming hearings coming, they're grabbing them at the door as soon as they walk out of the courtroom. It's not a good scene. And I would like to respectfully remind you that your responsibility to Medina County residents as commissioners is to prevent harm before it occurs in Medina County. And this is what we're all asking you to do here today by signing the resolution. But on another matter, the City Council resolution that was passed in Akron last night, it was an emergency resolution, which we're really happy that they had the nerve to stand up and do the right thing. So I'm just going to mention what was in the resolution because I think it's very important that you know and that you follow the same way and do the same thing here. So there were 4 resolutions that are in the state in the House that are going to be passed if they vote on them. And this was what Akron City Council was opposed to. The first one is House Bill 26. The Protecting Ohio Communities Act would mandate that state and local employees comply with federal requests regarding homeland security and immigration enforcement while prohibiting municipal corporations from implementing policies that would obstruct such compliance. House Bill 42. This bill requires state agencies and entities, including schools, to collect and report data concerning the citizenship or immigration status of people they serve. House Bill 281. This bill seeks to require licensed hospitals, licensed psychiatric hospitals to permit law enforcement to enter hospital facilities and enforce immigration laws. And the last one is Senate Bill 172. This bill would require state and local officials to permit the arrest or detention of people suspected of being undocumented, regardless of circumstances. This we should all oppose, and I hope you would oppose it too. And again, I remind you that your duty as commissioners is to prevent the harm before it comes, and it will be here. We don't know that ICE hasn't been here. We know where a lot of the immigrants are, and this needs to stop. And they're not just black or brown, they're white. I see them every day when I'm at the Federal Immigration Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Does anyone else have any public comment today?
Pauline Chapman, 7328 Worcester Pike Road in Seville, Ohio. I'm here today because I want you to pass this resolution because when this all started, ICE was supposed to be picking up the worst of the worst. They're not doing that. They're picking up, they're targeting people for quotas. And some of these people, these asylum seekers, have been in the system for years. And when they go to their hearings that they're required to go to, they're being picked up and swooped away by these agents. That is wrong. We need to stop that. They're taken from their children, from their jobs. They're taxpayers. And when they pay their taxes, it benefits our government. So when they're swooped away, that all goes away because then they're taken to a facility that we, the taxpayers, are having to pay for. We're having to pay to house them and to feed them. And that is a loss for all of us because they're not in the tax system. They're taking from the tax system. So I'm asking you to pass this resolution so we don't be facing what so many other communities are facing. We're supposed to love our neighbors. And that is why I say to pass this resolution.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Do you want to come up?
No one else? Yes.
Good morning. Morning. Yes, I am standing up. I'm not sitting down. I think it takes a fair amount of bravery.
Can you give your name, please? Give us your name,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. My name is Heather Nichols. I live at 58 East Main Street in Seville, Ohio. And I didn't come with prepared remarks, but I think it takes a great deal of bravery for people in this room to come up here and give their name and their address in this current atmosphere where just doing so could make you the target of retaliation. I think that it's possible for two things to be true at the same time. I think it's possible to believe, as the one woman who came in here spoke in favor of immigration enforcement, and we reacted and sort of recoiled in horror because we don't see it the same way she does. But she has a right to be heard. She has a right to her opinion. At the same time, while it's important to enforce legitimate national security concerns, legitimate immigration law, it's not right to change the rules midstream. To have someone who has applied for one of the myriad different ways of entering this country through asylum applications or through naturalization applications, you're in the process. Maybe you have temporary protective status like the Haitians did. Maybe the reasons for having temporary protective status have changed. Maybe it's not about the earthquake in Haiti in 2010 anymore. Maybe it's because Haiti is a war zone right now, and sending people back there would basically be condemning them to death. It shouldn't take a court order to stop something so inhumane as stripping temporary protective status from the Haitians or the Venezuelans. I mean, so it's complicated. There's no 30-second soundbite that's going to fix it. But you guys live here in Medina with us. You represent us. We elected you. And we're asking you to take a small step. There is absolutely nothing in the resolution that asks Medina County to not enforce legitimate immigration enforcement. What we're asking for is that this current iteration of immigration and customs enforcement is not what it started out to be. We're asking that you take the step of validating our concerns, committing to what's in the resolution so that we take a stand and say we understand legitimate concern. What we won't be part of is something that's corrupted what was originally a legitimate concern and places all of us in danger, whether we are immigrants, undocumented immigrants, naturalized citizens, natural-born citizens. You need to protect all of us. That's why we're asking for this resolution. That's why it's so, so important. And I would just ask, while we're sitting here today, what do you think? We would like to hear you stand up and say yes. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody? Oh,
She just repeated something I said. I'm Sylvia Holmes, 591 Sharon Copley Road, Wadsworth, 44281. I said at a rally, despair is not an option. My ancestor, Thomas Orton, was in Litchfield, Connecticut in 1640 when he married. My family has been here in Medina County. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all born here. I've lived most of my life here. This is important to me that you pass this resolution. We need due process. We must have due process for every single person that has already been deported. They need to be allowed that due process. We must stand for that. By the way, I'm 90.
is there anybody else who'd like to speak in public comment?
I'd like to ask a question. Are you going to say anything?
Oh, we're still in public comment.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move on to discussion session. Steve, do you have anything?
Yeah, we did have, I forwarded to you the, I think last week, Westfield had provided us with a resolution involving charges to the solid waste facility there, and that we asked a legal review from the prosecutor's office. Sean Hudson provided this last night. We had discussions during the solid waste policy committee this past week, or last week, excuse me.
Closer to your microphone, please.
We had discussion last week during the Solid Waste Policy Committee regarding this. There's a section of the code that allows that the funds from provide financial assistance to townships for the cost of mitigating impacts of public health, safety, and welfare of solid waste disposal or transfer facilities within the applicable political subdivision, which applies obviously to our transfer station there. But the prosecutor's office made clear they do not have the express authority to bill us for that. So at this point, I'm going to recommend that that Barb and Matt and I sit down with Westfield and take a look at the occurrences, and I think it's only fair for us to evaluate it, and I think the statute provides for a contract then, and then a provision of money for compensating them for those services. We know they've had frequent calls because lithium-ion batteries and some overflows from the household hazardous waste. So there's no doubt that it has had a public safety impact, but I think it's only fair for us to take a look and see the occurrence of that and what would be a reasonable compensation level, if that's agreeable.
Makes sense. Would that be, I don't know if that's working, would that be in addition to, or would that be kind of how we would establish our local contribution to the township? Because
that's how we would establish the contribution to it. And basically, it's just to evaluate, I think, once we work out the contract, to be looked at it annually based upon the occurrences. We're hoping to reduce the number of times that they have to come out because of changes in collection for lithium-ion batteries and procedures. Actually, there's new technology that's going to be, the Rumpke was announced, I can't remember the name of it, but it basically senses heat when the garbage comes in, when the municipal waste comes in, so that way you can go ahead and attack it or separate it so it doesn't turn into an incident. So I think the technologies hopefully will reduce the involvement of the local fire department, but I think we ought to go ahead and look at compensate them. There have been discussion about doing a host fee, but very clearly they don't have the authority for a transfer station to do that. But this provision that they passed billing us is, it appears, according to the prosecutor, not a lawful one.
Right.
But I just wanted to make sure you were in agreement. We'll proceed with that, and I think only justly be able to compensate them for the usage of the EMS and fire services.
Yeah, I think that's a good compromise there, because not really a compromise, but it's a good solution if they're not eligible for the host fee. And even if they were, we can say this is going to be tied to services that are actually rendered. I know fire district and township are separate, but I'm sure everybody will.
Yeah, and I think too, we're since it is a public facility, public owned, it's not taxed, doesn't contribute to the tax base that pays for the fire. Yeah, there's a transfer station, as you know, up in Liverpool. They're actually paying a local tax because it's taxed that way. So it's not a comparable situation. That was also part of the discussion. But I just wanted to make sure you're okay with.
Well, I look forward to seeing your proposed contract.
Yep. Okay, and we'll work on that. Thank you. That's the only thing I had.
Okay. Karen?
I just want to make both of you aware. I don't think we have talked about this before, but now that I'm going to be added to the executive committee roster with NOACA, working with, there's a proposal in Columbus, I think it was advanced by Representative Romer and some others, who were seeking to put an end to the e-check system in Northeast Ohio. So in noting that the emissions have dropped in the years since it was established, and there's very little evidence that that's due to the e-check system, I think it's time to maybe revisit that. It's not NOACA's decision to do that, but I think maybe mobilizing them. Ultimately, the program's kind of evolved into what amounts to a regressive tax on the portion of our population who's most likely to struggle with reliable transportation. And so if they have to put all this money into their vehicles, that causes kind of unintended consequences. And I think if NOACA were involved, there might be more impactful solutions and use of those federal dollars that are running the e-check program right now that would be better received to maybe address some of those larger concerns. Maybe they put it into our transit operations or things like that. So, I'm gonna. This is the very early stages of that, but I just at least want to make both of you aware that that's a plan I have in terms of my ongoing involvement with NOACA. So,
Matt, do you have anything? I don't see any other departments here. We did have our final, will be our final microphone board meeting this morning at 9 o'clock, and the board voted to make a recommendation to the commissioners to dissolve the microphone board, which, has kind of become an archaic kind of thing in the age of technology. So Recorder Hoffman will be here on the 24th, and we will present a resolution to officially dissolve the microphone board, if that is okay with you guys.
We'll all shed a tear.
Yeah.
And I know the folks here wanted to, hear some discussion. I think we obviously don't generally take action on resolutions as they're presented, but perhaps one of us could offer a comment afterwards on behalf of the commissioners to.
Steve's going to talk to the news that are here. Sure. We appreciate you all coming. We appreciate all your comments. It really is nice to hear everyone's thoughtful comments today and respectful, and we will take them all in consideration, and we thank you very much.
And I do want to make a statement today, at least as part of the record too. Today's Gazette headline: Off-duty officer pleads guilty to attempted abduction, loses police certification. And if you followed this story, that is local law enforcement, two good law enforcement agencies, the City of Brunswick, Hinckley Township, in combination with the prosecutor's office, taking action against officers of the law that identified them as enforcement officers, thought that they had found somebody that was essentially an illegal alien whose rights were denied. They have been prosecuted. And I just want to commend the county prosecutor for coming to that decision, reviewing the evidence, which is what you should do, and our law enforcement officials doing the right thing. That's in the headline of today's Gazette, and that's what Medina County is about, is looking at individuals that and the proper enforcement of the laws. And our local, I have full confidence in, I know that many of the police chiefs, I know many of our law enforcement officers, I obviously know the sheriff and the deputies and our county prosecutor, and they are doing a good and fair job with the enforcement of all laws and protection of the community.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
I would just add too that that as I look at the, I think it was a 6 section resolution, that generally would be the concern, is that it you do things today with the best of intentions and they have unintended consequences when there is a future event, and now the local law enforcement's hands are tied by actions that we take that would be actions that they're free to take. And I think there's a separation of powers problem there too, is if the commissioners start saying to the sheriff, you can do this or you can't do that, we've got to be mindful of overstepping our bounds as well. So we obviously have plenty of local government priorities to focus on, in our typical operations, roads and bridges and sanitary sewers and solid waste and senior services and all these other things. And so, I think that those are appropriately our focus, but while being appreciative and also sensitive to everybody's position on this larger issue. So,
thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Roll. Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yep.
Sweattick?
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.